Welcome to Viva La Visionary, the podcast that celebrates the innovative ideas and mindsets of entrepreneurs and visionaries. Join your host, Coach Bob Shenefelt, as he dives into inspiring stories and practical insights from trailblazers who are changing the game. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned leader, this show is your source for motivation and creativity. Let's embark on this exciting journey together.
Hi there, Coach Bob here, the host of Viva La Visionary, here with Debra Silverman. Debra, so glad to not only talk with you, but be with you. We have a lot of history, and I appreciate all you've done for me. So happy to hang out with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I've been thinking a lot about this conversation, and I just wanted you to know how much you've done for me and my family and for so many people that I'm in community with. And all starting with going to a wedding in the mountains, which kind of inspired going to the mountains.
25 years ago.
Right, exactly. So 25 years ago, and
That's crazy.
20 years ago, we just had Nick, our second child, and we were a mess. We weren't sleeping. We screwed up a large job in our business. The bank came calling on a big loan we had and said, oh, by the way, you got to pay it back in 30 days, which was kind of interesting. And I was just freaking out. And here, my wife, Cheryl, who just had a baby 2 or 3 weeks earlier, said, you need to go away for a while. So that's kind of cool, but do you want me to come back? And she said, yes, but you got to do some healing work. So I worked out to Parker, reached out to Parker, and who I love his music. We had it on when you came in. And he's like, I've got someone for you. It's Debra. And I'm like, Debra. And you were the one that facilitated Debra and Ashley's wedding. And I'm like, oh, I loved her. So did a 4-day retreat with you, which was a game changer. Just turning that off. That really helped me to birth I Matter, which is the life operating system that I needed, let alone I think the world could use. And then that was when I got acclimated to the 4 elements. And when we did a session, it was almost like how would I say it? Like
Parts therapy, like voice dialogue.
Right. Yeah. So voice dialogue, but it was almost like my advisory board.
That's
is how
right.
I remember. Right. So fire, okay, I'm a lot of fire. We can talk more about the 4 elements. Water, I have no water, no surprise there. And then you said you have X amount of planets in Earth, so you love Earth. I'm like, no, I don't. And I remember this so clearly, like you're smiling ear to ear. You love money, you love structure, you love business. I'm like, no, I don't. But that was a great realization. So sure enough, I love EOS, created I Matter. So I do love, I think you said you can put spirituality into a spreadsheet. So that was amazing. And Cheryl and I have done many sessions with you. I've had probably 100 visionaries have gone through either with you or with some of your students that you've taught. And it's been a game changer. I loved getting a glimpse of people from their Colby, which is a cognitive test assessment, Working Genius, Patrick Lencioni's thing that helps, and then the 4 elements. So those are the 3 things that I look at that really kind of summarize who we are. And then a couple other things. We did a session with my kids with you. And so that was 2018. So yeah, Grace was probably 15, Nick was 11 or whatever. And I just remember Grace and I are so different because she's a ton of Earth. And when you were explaining the 4 elements and you started to go through, Grace like, that's why Dad is like he is. So it really was a great breakthrough. So I just appreciate all you've done for me, all you've done for a lot of visionaries out there. So long-winded, I appreciate you and everything you do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And that's appreciated. I love practical examples.
And I have more, but we only have so much time.
I feel like they're looking at the back of my head. But
Well, they're listening. So we're talking, this is about to, for, and from, and with visionaries. So a couple of questions and then we'll just have dialogues, but do you consider yourself a visionary?
well, that's why I'm in my company. I have 50 women that work for me for the last 10 years. And
Yep.
I have a CEO.
Yep.
And Dino gave me that whole model of who's the integrator. And so I am the visionary in the company. And I have taken my hands off some of the practical stuff in the beginning, of course, at the start of a company. I discovered I was an entrepreneur. I didn't realize that.
You're a great entrepreneur.
I didn't realize that. I had no idea I had that skill set. I've been a healer, a therapist. I have a master's in clinical psychology. So my entire focus from when I was young till that moment when I went through my second Saturn, turned 58, like start an online astrology school. I didn't even know what those words meant. Like, what's an online school? One. And how do you learn astrology online? And the next thing, we have 8,000 students that pay through our school. And we've had 10 years of consistent business that's a multi-million-dollar business. I had never identified myself as a businesswoman. I was a healer and an astrologer and a therapist, most of all.
Yep, which I totally appreciate.
And then found out I guess I have to learn some skills. And then I discovered, unbeknownst to me, I had a natural inclination for numbers and spreadsheets and P&Ls, which I in the beginning felt like a fake. I'd be at the P&L meeting with all the finance guys. It's the only men in my company. And my observer would come in and I go, you are so full of shit. Like she would be, I'd be like, be quiet. No, and I just act like I knew what they were talking about. And then I have a couple friends that you might know, a couple very successful entrepreneurs that I would call them and I'd go, I don't know about this profit margin thing. Can you tell me? And then I'd write it all down. The next meeting, I'd sound super. I just read what my friends, and then I started becoming a businesswoman by practice, by experience, not by schooling.
So, and then that's what's interesting is I didn't think I was a business person, but what Gino helped me to realize is I'm a visionary, which there is a place for that in the business if you have an integrator or COO, and if you have someone else really running the day to day, because I'm not good at running the day to day.
Same. I mean, I can do it. I came to find out, but it's not my superpower.
Right. So what would you say, because I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of visionaries, what is one of the biggest issues that we visionaries have, and what's a piece of advice or something that we could work on as visionaries?
Well, I think it's your element of fire. You and I share this in common.
Right.
The excitable enthusiast who sees the vision, who gets all wrapped up in like, dun, 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 we're going to go do that right now. And then turns around and goes, wait, did I write any of that down? Did you write any of that down? And that's so the entrepreneur or the visionary fire element of an enthusiast who knows how to implement or enroll a team.
Right. I would say that we know how to enroll, not implement. Just getting rid of a couple things here.
What is happening in the middle of this podcast?
Well, we're just winging it here and trying to take notes.
Sagittarius.
Right, but it all works.
It does.
All right. So what I was saying is that I have a lot of ideas that flow through me, and yet if I don't have the right people to help discern and organize, then I'm very scattered.
That's the job of fire. So fire inspires, excites, sees the vision, gets the excitement, and then that you bring with a team.
Right.
Well, you have Earth, but you're really good at. You do have.
I see the big picture, but I cannot implement. I don't like implementing.
No, you could. There's a difference between this is true of all Sagittarians. They don't like doing details, but they can do it.
No, I can. You're right.
All right, call them out.
Yeah.
I was once. This is a funny story. I know I traveled with Sting for many years, and he has a lot of earth in his chart, but he disguises it as a fireman standing on stage with a guitar in his hand. So we were traveling together. At one point, he was telling me what to do, and I said, Sting, I know your chart. Forget about this. Stop telling you do it. But he's so used to fire people like you who get everybody all excited, and then we follow you around and we get helpers.
Right.
It doesn't occur to you that if they weren't there, I promise you'd get it done. And use your superpower. Put yourself in the right seat. If it's not what you prefer, then that's the right answer, because what you prefer is where your juju is.
Right.
And an astrologer's job is to look at the chart and goes, here's what you prefer.
Right.
And here's what your skill set is. Now, you can just stick to your preference, Mr. Fire, or you can apply the practicality, because that's where the money is.
Right. No, definitely. Interesting.
It's a choice.
Right. Well, the other thing when we did our first session together is, and I love how you help people to figure out their how they came into this life, how they're showing up in their life lesson. And my life lesson was to humbly speak my truth. And what you helped me to realize is I was shouting into the chasm, you all need to do this. And it's like, okay, walk the talk and humbly speak it. So I'm still learning that.
That's a Sagittarius 3 sign. In my new book, there's a high road and low road to every sign. And the low road of Sagittarius is, well, I don't believe in astrology. I don't think you can look at it. Everything's backwards.
No, it's not backwards. Slide over a little bit. No, it's not.
Slide over which way?
Toward me. So it's not.
The book
backwards.
comes in. Oh, that's so good. Here I am.
Yay.
Did you wonder what I look like?
So you were just saying.
High road, low road. Every sign. So if there's a low road of Sagittarius, it's enthusiasm without follow through.
Yeah. Oh.
If there's a high road of Sagittarius, it's inspiring us to do the follow through.
Right. Huh. Interesting. Right. And what I also am missing is discernment. So when working genius Patrick Lencioni, I am inventor, and so is my wife Cheryl. So we have a bottle of wine and invent shit, even if people don't want it or care about it. Then I'm a galvanizer, so I get people all excited, they don't even know why. And then she is tenacity, which she wants everything done today perfect. And so we drive ourselves and others crazy. But when we have a right team and when we slow down and don't get too caught up in it and use our 4 elements, it all works a lot smoother. That's for sure.
That's the whole point.
Right.
It's called what Carl Jung called making the unconscious conscious. We operate unconsciously in these instinctive ways that you've labeled because you're fascinated by types. And then the question is, how awake am I to be able to implement what is required in the moment, separate from all that. Like, can I play all hats? Yes. Do I want to? No. Is there a requirement for me to be my authentic self and really find my superpowers? Yes. And then there's parts where I have to pull in and say, okay, I'm going to do the dishes today. Like, I don't like doing the dishes, but I'm going to do it. And if that leadership role is humbled enough to be willing, and that's what I've seen working in company for 10 years, that I'll do whatever is required. I don't want to write the newsletter. I don't want to go to the finance meeting. And then I tell myself, excuse me, honey, this is what you signed up for. Shut up. Oh, sorry.
So you mentioned the observer. I kind of know what that is, but can you explain what is the observer?
That's both my books. Right. Yeah, it's so awkward right now because I don't know. I'm looking at you, and then I'm looking over there. I look over there. Am I looking at you? There's the blue dot. Oh, Mr. Blue Dot. My name's Debra Bob. I'm so glad to meet you. So the observer is the blue dot. The observer is in your life right now. There's some point of view that's probably above your head where there's a camera. Let's put one in front of us. So there's a camera seeing Bob and Debra. Then there's a camera behind us. You're seeing the back of your head, seeing my arm, seeing the back of your neck. Then there's a camera on that side, just seeing me and your profile. Now there's a camera on this side, seeing you and just back of my head. You lift this is the observer. You stop time, you take a breath, you lift yourself up and out of the circumstance for a minute, neutralize, and you're good at this because you have no water. Turn off the emotional body. Just don't feel anything for a minute. And just observe, like you were a New York Times reporter. He has a black shirt on. She has a white and black dress on. They're holding chips, like practical, non-translated, no judgment, no, just the raw data.
So taking my emotions and judgment out, right?
Yeah, everything out. And I call it Switzerland. The observer's just like, oh, I'm thirsty. Like all of the dialogue is neutral and without interpretation. If you can apply that to yourself on a regular basis during the day when you stop. I was just listening to Eckhart Tolle and I heard him say, I loved it. He talks so slow. He said, when you get in the car, I know he talks so, but I can't do it. Stop and look at the car, look at the steering wheel, look at the keys, look at the window. Like take the time to stop and come out of the unconscious where you're just, and you're actually heightening your awareness. So another word for the observer is awareness. Like my awareness is on, I'm not on automatic. I took a breath. I slowed down. This really happened last night. I was at my 50th high school reunion and my observer kicked in the middle. And I was like, I'm in a room with kids that I knew 50 years ago, and they don't look the same. Like that wasn't a judgment. That was just a raw perception.
They don't look the same.
Yeah, and now I'm noticing the energy in the room, and there's pockets, just like there were when we were kids. There's little clicks, and then I decide. My observer comes on, and I'm like, I don't want to be here. And then my ego goes, oh yes, you got to stay. All your friends want you to stay. This is inappropriate. You can't leave now. And then my observer goes, I think it's good. It's totally okay for you to leave now. It's okay for me to leave now. Okay. So I go call the Uber. I go outside the building and everybody goes, don't go. My observer's on. I'm like, I see you want me to stay. I feel you. No, the observer gives you back to your free will. You're not on automatic responding to the collective expectation of these are what the kids want. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what my mothering role is supposed to be. You stop, you take a breath and you give yourself free will. That's a very high road.
Love it. So is that similar to, because I realize for me, when I slow down and listen to others and listen to what's going on here, and from here, it all works. But that's not how I was brought up for 61 years. And so that it does take practice.
Yeah. Well, I'm almost 70. So it's a little bit easier. Like not in the last 5 years. Honestly, the last 5 years, I've really, now let's talk about aging. It's at the 50th high school reunion. And I asked everyone that I could, because who could talk in those situations? I said, if there's something that you've learned, like you've noticed that's occurred as a result of your aging, what would it be? And one of the most common things I heard last night was, I don't give a fuck.
Really?
Yes, so many people. You reach this age where you're like, why am I worried about what you think? Why do I care? Like, what is my preoccupation with the outer world when I have, in the end,
looking for acceptance from the outer world?
Exactly. When I can give myself.
May not ever happen, or at least we think it does.
And it's not even relevant. I mean, in the end of the story, it's between you and your integrity and your honesty or your mistakes or your kindness or your understanding of yourself or your delight about who it is that you are with your kids. And that's in the end of the story.
Yeah.
So I've really been practicing my observer. And as I've gotten older, I had so much fun last night. It's fun to be able to come out of the trance. In any situation, except when you're making love, don't turn the observer on. That's dumb.
A good point.
Just leave that out. But other than that, you are allowed to constantly ask yourself, am I awake? Am I aware? And am I choosing this life and this relationship and these kids and I want to re-choose again. And every time you re-choose with conviction, the life gets shinier and brighter and funner and enthusiastically delightful, which is what you and I have. That's what happens when the observer's on. It's a magical, it's a one-stop shop.
Right. Well, I know you also talk about seasons, and I think I like change. I don't know if I do, and I'm open to your thoughts on it. But going through so many seasons, especially with my kids growing up. I mean, last summer, Nick graduating from high school and everything that goes along with that, and where is he going to go to school? And then Grace getting married last August. And then 2 weeks later, we drive Nick to school at Princeton and drop him off. And Cheryl and I are like, what the fuck?
That's called Saturn return. You just finished Saturn return. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It happens at 30 and it happens at 60. So right in that window at 60
Right.
is when people start to go through a new season.
And just even, I don't know really how to grieve and to let go. So I'm still, and Cheryl and I are still both kind of dealing with that. And then we still had baseball to cling to. And then Nick didn't play this summer because he's getting elbow surgery a week from Monday, which will all be a good thing. But that was our whole summer, is going to games. And we're like, what do we do? And so the last couple of weekends, like, well, let's take Brady to a park. And it was great. And then listening, like hearing different types of birds. And so, I mean, it was just, so we got a state park pass. We went to 3 state parks last weekend.
That's
It's weird. But, Cheryl and I are just like, it's okay to not be rushing. Because we've been rushing for 25 years.
No idea how good aging is.
Yeah. Well, when I first met you 25 years ago, you were one of the few people that like, I love getting older. What are you talking about?
Everybody, I don't know. I've been lying about my age for a long time.
That's right. Lying the other way.
Yeah, I always make myself older.
Right.
And then I get caught. And Facebook, it says I'm 85 or something. And you look right, they go, why does it say you're 85? I think aging is the gift of being able to turn on the observer, spend time studying astrology, being interested to learn in detail rather than being distracted in mass. Like these are objects, these are weapons of mass distraction.
Yes.
So we spend all our time. When you start to study the stars and you go outside and hear the birds, and I spend a lot of time in nature.
Right.
Yeah, I just went to the doctor and he asked me what I was taking with vitamin D. He said, I've never seen a score like this. I was like, I don't use a car.
The sun, right?
I use an electric bike. I don't use a car anymore.
Right. Oh, that's
for about 15 years now.
Right.
So I am like, look at my skin. Right. I'm outside. That is medicine. That's the only thing that I have found as an elder that is the essential giver to me. I am so at peace and so in love. I live in Hawaii for the winter, as you know. So it is absolutely exquisite.
Right. So seasons, I'm just trying to think what else around that. Well, even, I don't know if it's my passion, it's probably ego and pride, that if I start something, I've got to finish it and see it through. And to let go of those things isn't as bad as I would have thought. I created the Visionary Forum. So that's TVF and a big part of what we're doing here. And so, but I've been had my head down the last 2 years trying to grow it. And it's like, what the fuck am I doing? I mean, it's just like, and so then I have people who've been to the Visionary Summit that are like, what just happened? I'm like, well, it's called love. It's called connection. It's called community, elevation, growth, consciousness. So I was very open and honest with several of them. And I said, I can't do this by myself, both time and money. And so several of them have been volunteering to help and growing it. And we're considering making it a member-owned organization. And one of the things they said is, you don't need to be the visionary, and we're not investing in you. No offense. And so I'm like, well, fuck this. Of course I'm the visionary. So over a couple of weeks doing a lot of meditation and healing work and whatnot, it's like, wait, maybe it is time to let go of that. And as Gino says, go above the line to the owner's box. Then I can spend time truly being present and coaching and rolling into iMatter. I haven't totally committed to iMatter yet until like a week ago.
What?
Well, because I'm going to go do iMatter, which again, I discovered 20 years ago with you on a weekend retreat. And so, but then I sold my business. I went into business doing someone else's stuff. Then I became an EOS implementer, which was all great. Then I stopped being an implementer to do iMatter, but then I jumped into the Visionary Forum. And what I realized is I don't know if I trusted that love was real, God was real, spirit was real, that I had real value. And I come across as a very highly confident person, but inside I'm like, what if this isn't real? What if I'm a fraud? What if this, and maybe they're all right. But literally last Tuesday, and because I've gone through a lot in the last couple of weeks, and my mom is getting older. Yeah, no, I'd love to get feedback. But my mom, we're about to move her into assisted living. So I'm having a conversation with her today, which is going to be interesting. Well, the kids growing up, Cheryl and I, getting older, my body's like, okay, I just played pickleball yesterday for an hour and a half and I'm fucking sore. But it was last Tuesday, I was driving to go meet my forum mates, my entrepreneur mates, and I was smiling for no reason. And that's the first time I've done that because I'm like, well, as soon as I make Debra happy and she says how wonderful I am, then I'm going to be successful. And it's like, I've already had a life full of success with raising the kids, starting, help so many people. But now I'm committing to splitting it and really shouting from the rooftops humbly that to know and act like they matter. But the main thing is that I know and act like I matter. And Gino talks about letting go of the vine, so, okay, I've been doing this for so long, and then to let go because I have people and systems that I trust. And then what I say is live life beyond the vine, which is not being attached to those things.
That's so beautiful.
So that's what I'm stepping into. And it's like, it's an opportunity for me to be the example and not as soon as this
That's
happens,
the elder,
right?
Or now I can ordain you and an elder. Let's go, because
Well, I used to pretend I was still 25.
That's my point.
Right.
And at 60, that's Saturn return. So
Yeah.
for everybody listening, there's 2 markers in seasons. One is 28 to 30, and one is 58 to 60.
Right.
And right after 60, as you enter the early 60s, the eldership is present. And that gives you a chance to redefine and reevaluate, like, what do I want to do? And some people change careers. They go on sabbaticals, they take a trip, they do something radical. For me, I started a business. I don't know, I became a businesswoman, but it was a radical change. And now, as I reach 70, I can see, Gino wrote in my book. He did one of the, he was very
Forwards or testimonials,
reluctant,
right?
because Gino's not supposed to believe in astrology. A
Right.
classical entrepreneur
Right.
businessman is not looking at astrology. So
Right.
he had a moment, and then he was like, I'm giving it to her. He wrote a beautiful
And you've helped him for 20 years, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
The point of that is everyone on the planet needs to know the season, the cycle they're in,
Right.
and then give themselves permission. Because when you have 2 kids running around the house and you've got school and baseball practice after, and dinner and food and getting them up in time, your whole psyche, once again, out of the observer, you're locked down inside of a real mentality that says you don't have a vote.
Right.
You're going to do all these things and you're out of the free will zone. And then when the kids leave and there's all the space that reduces the pressure of or your social identity was based on other people's approval, and all of a sudden it leaves off the vine, then you're like, hold on a minute. And that's where the eldership. Yeah, I'm so happy to be getting older. It's funny. I never thought, I knew always ran towards my aging process, but I just didn't know it would be this fun.
Right. That's awesome. Right. Because
I'm physically, so I can play racquetball. I bike ride 5 to 6 hours a day,
right.
And I do yoga every day. So I've maintained my physicality. I saw that last night at the little reunion. Right. I was like, yeah, we won't be putting you on the yoga mat. Sorry, no judgment, just noticing.
Sure. Right. Well, and it's like,
but that's a decision. Everyone listening to this, you want to know how to stay young? It's a one simple word. It's called discipline.
Right.
And people hate that word. But the older you get, the more prone it is to not have discipline and to eat the extra
right.
and gain the weight and do the lazy. But when you don't and you exercise discipline a teeny bit, the whole thing turns into, I remember me. But when we get caught under the wave of being tired and using coffee and having to have uppers and having to have stimulants and having to have all that is a symptom of to your point, do I really know meditation? Do I really get messages from the higher realm? Is that bullshit? Am I reading the books, but I'm not doing it? Am I watching these podcasts, but not applying it? That's where the tires hit the ground. That's called Earth.
Right.
And you have it. You're like wanting to be real and not, and your wife is a really good judge for that one. She'll keep you on your toes. It's a good, healthy thing.
Well, and I tell people the greatest relationship therapy we've gotten is through you and through astrology, because how I heard it is, okay, Cheryl, Bob is a ton of fire, doesn't have water, has a lot of earth. Okay. And help him with that. And then Bob, here's what Cheryl is. And we're not going to change it.
She's a genius.
Right. For sure.
And you can't change the story. Right. It's such a profound, the book, I don't believe in astrology, is for all you that don't believe in astrology.
Right.
And for the ones that didn't get, because you had a direct experience so young.
Right.
And it was so meaningful. Most people think I don't even know. That was funny last night. You're a what? I saw your picture on Facebook. What do you do? I was like, something about stars.
So how do I coach people, and one of the ways I coach is through, whether it be through you or one of your amazing students. Because again, what's interesting is you're amazing, but your students are maybe as amazing.
Totally.
Right. Well, because I used to think a lot of the value you provided was your intuition, which you do have, but a lot of it is the stars and the science behind it.
And you couldn't believe it till you met the other students. Right. Yeah. So for those of you interested who have never had a reading, because I'm imagining your audience has not.
A lot.
I have 25 certified astrologers that I put through a rigorous training for years.
Right.
They've passed it. And then I do this thing I'm going to sing. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch. I look at your chart. You send in your chart. I look at your chart, and then I fix you up with one of those 25. Like I would give you a guy that was an entrepreneur, people that speak your language, that will understand. So I'm a good matchmaker. Should I sing again? Done singing.
So how do I not convince, but even just came up twice in the last week where people are like, I can't do that. Whether it's, my spirituality or religion doesn't believe in it, and devil's work or whatever it might be. So I just say, hey, you can choose it or not. I'm not going to convince you. But what's that?
You know how they found Jesus?
No.
They followed a star.
Oh, right. Oh, interesting. Right.
And who do you think was following the star? Was it any ordinary person, or was it a stargazer?
Right.
Who was the one that was informed that the star would give the directive? These were magicians. These were the magi, but we forgot that.
Yeah.
So all the Christians who I adore Jesus, he's my best friend, and I'm Jewish and he was Jewish. So move on with the religious stuckness, open the door and go, that Jesus was found by a star, and that the entire ancient wisdom, the oldest science on earth is astrology. My mind could fight with that conversation. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
There's no logic behind that. Well, good luck with the logic. And you notice we're out of logic. You passed that about 3 years ago.
Well, it's interesting because that's where I had someone who went to the mountain or the retreat that we do that did the sweat lodge and the 4 elements and worked with one of your certified astrologers. And it helped her with amazing breakthroughs. And so their forum is going to do a retreat with me. And one person is like, that's just against what I believe in. And so I had a conversation. I said, I'm not trying to convince people how to get to God or what that looks like. It's just being present. And so it's
How did she respond?
I don't know. We'll find out because the retreat's in a couple months. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. So the forum is moving forward. This person may or may not join us for that portion. And the person who's been through it is like, it has nothing to do with anything other than being present and figuring it out for yourself.
And being authentic, finding your own.
Right. So it's interesting. But also I'm realizing, because I have been afraid to even say the word God or talk about that because of the dogma I've had around it. And so lately it's like, this is who I am. And if you don't agree, that's fine.
See, this is the aging thing.
Right.
The aging thing is you step over, still being politically correct, still being kind. And you can imagine why I named the book I Don't Believe in Astrology, because you know how many people.
Right.
Yeah. So it's been that last night. One of the guys, he's so cute. I forgot how much I liked him. And he was a Capricorn. I knew it. I remember it when we were kids. He was like, what? And he has logic. It's an earth sign. So it's based on practicality. He was like, you drank the Kool-Aid. I was like, excuse me. I manufacture the Kool-Aid. And by the way, the name of my book is I Don't Believe. It's perfect for you.
Right.
I Don't Believe in Astrology.
That's awesome.
It's the judgment under the system of the religious order. And I respect those people because they've got faith or they've got a strong mind.
If it works, fantastic. Right?
Don't close anything down.
Dr. Bill Isaacs wrote a book called A Dialogue is the Art of Learning Together. And I love that. And so it's, I have my experience and my beliefs. You have yours. We may not convince each other, but if we have a safe, sacred space, I'm going to learn something from what you're talking about.
Because your moon's in Libra.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
No.
So your moon is in the sign of the mediator and peace at all costs. Like you really want people to be, that's a big value of yours.
Right.
So dialogue is Libra. When I was going to make astrology dolls back in the 80s, the Libra one comes in 2. The only one in the package would have 2 dolls because they always want to dialogue and partner. And they're such partnering people. Ask questions, engage, open minds. That's your function this life. That's why we're here.
Right. Well, it's interesting because I've had a few people call the Visionary Forum and the community that we created a faith-based organization. I'm like, no. And they're like, what do you wait? And I said, well, no, I don't want people to think that we're a religion or we're telling people what is God or how to get to that or whatever. He said, no, you're helping people to have faith in themselves, faith in love, faith in relationships, faith in something.
Beautiful.
And I'm like, that I'm down for. Because that's
so beautiful.
Yeah. So, and then one of those people said at one of our summits, said, how did you and Cheryl create the safe space and the sacred space where Jewish people, Christians, Hindus were talking about God last night? But there was no judgment. And I was like, I don't know, but Cheryl and I, especially Cheryl, creates that safe space. But we bring people together just to be open and not judge and learn from each other. Right? Not convince each other.
That's the future. That's what these kids, your kids are hoping grown-ups that leave behind something that AI won't step over. These really simple values that make life worth living, because AI is going to be wrestling with us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Coming soon, like in a year.
Yeah. So quick thing, and my kids. So Grace was 3 years into mechanical engineering at University of Michigan. and called us and said she wanted to switch to elementary ed. And Cheryl, who's just like, what are you talking about? And then my book was sitting there, and I was about to say, well, just suffer for the next 10 years, and then you can do what you love and you're great at. It's like, really? Right. Well, because it was such a shift. Nick walks in, and he's 16 at the time, saying, parents are assholes, kids are assholes, you're going to hate it. Grace is just like, this is what I want to do. And we were like, go for it. And she graduated just a couple months ago, and she's so happy teaching kids. And when she read Unscatter the Chatter, our book, she said, it's amazing how alike we are. And she's a rule follower and an engineer brain. I'm like, we have similar core values, but we are not similar. She said, well, I'm here to help kids know that God loves them, and you're here to help people know they can love themselves. I'm like, fair enough.
That is so beautiful.
And when she switched, she was going on a mission trip, and I was nervous because it's like someone praying on this somewhat lost soul as we got locked down hard in Michigan. And she kind of was like, is there a God when we were going to be separate and be in fear? And so I'm like, why are you going on this mission trip? And she said, I'm going to learn how to create spiritual conversations. I'm like, sold. I said, this is what I do for a living, and I'm still afraid to do it until I know someone's ready for it. And then Nick, who listened to the book with me, that was probably 2 years ago, so he would have been 16 or 17. I said, what do you think? And he's like, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I said, well, thanks. And he's like, this is kind of how we live our life. I'm like, exactly. And I've learned more from them, Nick and Grace, than I think they have from me. It's been a great experience. And you've taught us that we are each of the four elements. The four. Right. So we push each other's buttons, but we work really well together.
And it's so beautiful. This is the future. This is so what you and Cheryl have brought to us, like creating a model that stimulates these conversations, because without these principles of family and love and back at the ranch and knowing how to be worthy, and we're doomed. I mean, I'm an astrologer. I'm allowed to talk like this. There's something's coming, obviously, and we're in the middle. We're not waiting for it anymore. July 2025 was really the turning point.
Right.
Where all the outer planets have shifted. And it simply implies a societal shift, just like you would think when the computers came in or when World War II was over.
Right.
And then everything radically changed. We moved into this wonderful era that I grew up in the 50s, which was like the golden age. And now we're going down and we're declining, and nothing's wrong. But if we don't have the observation or the visionary or the groundedness in ourselves, you can't figure it out. Don't worry about that. Just figure out your body. This is what astrology, my first book, was all about. It's called The Missing Element. There's no astrology in that book at all. Zero, nada, none. And if you go to my website, I'll send you your chart for free inside of it. That book was so surprising because you completely took it. You absorbed it like a minute. And people do.
It's easy.
Especially
it's
men.
simple.
And that's what Gino and what happened with that whole group of your, whatever those guys are called, that all go to those rich guys that are all presidents. What is that called, that organization?
Oh, EO, the Entrepreneur Organization.
Yeah. So I went and did a whole, I think you may have been the first, and then I went across into so many meetings with those men and blew their minds. Remember that?
Yeah.
Psychic thing that happened that time in Boulder?
Right.
And that was all because of the elements. Astrology was my fear to start with because people all said I don't believe in it.
Right.
And then I put that book out with no astrology, The Missing Element, just to figure out what is the pattern in your psyche that's required to cultivate so that you're more aware of yourself. And there's 4 wheels in a car. If one element's down, the whole thing goes off. My good friend Sting did a video on that. But which element am I missing again, Debra? I'm in the other room.
Right.
Oh, Earth. Is that right? Earth. That's Sting. We've done this 12 times.
So is he a visionary?
Yes. He's a recluse, actually. You would not believe that.
Yeah.
He's a very internal. He's an intellect.
Right.
That's why his words are so. Every song he writes, the words.
Right.
He like us. We're so fire. He is far more air and inside of himself in water.
Right. So out on the mountain 6-7 years ago, and you were looking at my chart, and I remember you looked at me, he's like, what is your rush? And I was like shaking, saying, if I don't make a huge impact today, we're fucked and our kids are screwed. And I remember you going, Earth is going to be okay. And you can't do it by yourself, and you're probably going to die trying to do it. And so that was a big thing, because I just like, oh my gosh. And I want my kids to have such a great life. I don't want them to feel pain, but I know you talk about this as well, that we learn through the pain. And that's something I'm from the happy family. Everything's great. It's, well, I was stuck in traffic and my mom's like, at least you weren't in the accident, and that's a great mentality. I'm having a conversation with my mother. We can maybe talk about that later today. But yeah, so I grew up pushing down the negative emotions. But then I realized right before Grace got married last summer, I was in yoga. I was just laying down and I started to have real sadness that my little girl was growing up. And I don't cry a lot, but I was starting to cry a little bit, and then joy bubbled up, to celebrate that we loved who she's marrying. She's happy. We've done good with her. And so I realized I've not only been shoving down the negative or lower vibrational emotions, I've been shoving down the higher ones too. So to be able to let go of that. So that's been a big
story.
Learning thing. And then even some people like, why do you lead with some of my tools are, what are your frustrations or your dreads? And my thing is, again, the chatter is most of it's not positive. And so to at least admit that there is a conversation going on up here, be a part of it, shift it where there is trust.
That is the second book.
Yeah.
Your inner dialogue is determined by your chart, and you're a fixator around wanting to succeed. You're obsessed.
Yeah.
Security. And
for sure.
Big money. So that obsession, Mercury and Capricorn, your mind obsessing is the source of your gremlins. And once your awareness is on and that comes on the observer, you're like, I'm obsessed.
Yes. I'm just realizing recently that I'm obsessed. Right.
Like, who is what? Like, that's what happened last month, that part. Why is everybody going so fast? We're 90 years old. Like, we're going to have the best third act.
Right.
Let's slow it down. And if you're young and you're rushing, because I was rushing, like you, we have a similar personality, the fire thing.
Right.
Use it while you got it, and then realize when the wake-up call happens and you go, why am I rushing? What is that impulse? Where's the unconscious impulse from my chart that demands that you're double Sag, and you've got all this Capricorn, and you have all this energy, Jupiter and Aries. You're like, so then you turn on your observer, you go, I am in the free will zone. Slow down. I'm going to be enthusiastic. I'm going to turn everybody on to everything you're thinking, for sharing. And I can take a breath.
And I don't have to know it all. I used to think, okay, I am the teacher, and I don't know if I've shared this with you. I had a stroke 4 years ago, which I think you even told me something was coming like that. And so I was in the ambulance, totally paralyzed on the left side of my body. And I think I have a funny sense of humor. But I keep it lively no matter what. I've been in an ambulance before, and I'll have the people laughing, but I couldn't even think straight to make a joke or to kind of put people at ease. I'm like, oh, I'm fucked. And so then that was one of my first conversations with God, that I'm like, okay, is this it? And I got a resounding no. I'm like, yes. And I said, it's because I'm here to teach, and I got a no. And I'm like, okay, well, what is it? And I have so much to learn. I was like, oh, and that's when I decided, until literally.
Wow.
Next morning, still paralyzed in the intensive care unit. My wife comes in, gives me a homeopath. We kind of looked around so we wouldn't get the police called on us or something for taking this natural thing that doesn't have side effects. And in 3 minutes, I got my movement back. And I was like, I was out within 24 hours. And it was like, and then they did all the tests and everything. They couldn't figure out what it was. And my doctor, who's amazing, world-renowned doctor, he's like, it was a fluke. You don't have a tendency for that. But as I did soul searching, I realized, because I was in fear and I'd given up my power. As we had been locked down, I wanted to go to the Capitol with a baseball bat and say, how could you do this to our kids? To lock us down and create so much fear. And at the end of the day, I don't even think it was a bad thing. It helped us to kind of get in touch. So where was I going with that? It was just that I was shifting from me having to know it all, but then getting my book done and out there. And I've had people go, because I wrote it and then I went on to something else, and people are like, this is amazing, stick with it. And that's what I'm shifting back to, is not only teaching this, but living it. So I don't even know where I was going with all that. But
you're just giving us a concrete example of how much you've shifted. And you were using the examples of how the whole thing at this conversation, and I think we're good. We'll just wrap it up.
Yeah.
When the mind is able to track and has the right questions, and you have such great questions.
Thank you.
And has a deep desire for awakening inside the dream, and really wants to bring us to God and our self-love. If that's your intention, and that's why you're watching this, you're on the right street. Right. The rest of it is just noisy. And when the chatter, when you unscatter the chatter and the thought process becomes liberated by awareness, which is a vague word that's brought to you by reading your book and doing your forum, by learning astrology, when the mind is tempered or disciplined under the influence of the soul. Once I said to my mind, listen, I can't listen to you anymore.
Right.
You are so rattling on and on. Right. Who pays you? Why does he work overtime? And why is he up in the middle of the night?
And talking both sides.
Yeah. Like your point of view isn't even worthy.
Right.
So I put him in a seat. You're going to sit there. And I turned on my awareness, my observer. And I find people like you or me, and there's so many, and Gino, and all these passionate beings who say to their children, I'm not handing you what I was handed. We're not doing it the same old way.
Yeah.
And bad news is it's theory while it changes. And we're watching the whole world rattle and the empire is going down. The good news is something is going to emerge, and you are definitely a futurist, you and your wife, planting the seeds with your children and your way of life for what's meant to come, because we cannot continue. You had a happy family. I did not. I'm not repeating that. We're done. And I finished the lineage of oil. I live in a house with the oil. Oh, and I don't do oil.
So how do people get a hold of you or your book?
Yeah, it's 3 words, Debra, Debra Silverman Astrology. And I mean, it's embarrassing to say that I'm almost 70. I'm on TikTok. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm certainly on the web.
Right. All right. So I got 2 last things. One, well, let me go to that second. So first, when I was being interviewed a month and a half ago, someone said, how do you, Bob, deal with the depression of not realizing your vision? And I was like, whoa. And so there's a lot of visionaries that have vision, and when they don't achieve it, how do they deal with that? Any thoughts or ideas?
Well, I just think the ones that haven't manifested are just cooking. I don't really turn into failure. This lifetime
could be.
It's just timing to the astrologer. But I happen to be a very good, I call it woman fester, not manifester. I'm a very good, I have had, and the reason why I think I'm a good woman fester is I don't say things I'm not going to do.
Right. That's good.
I'm very, very careful with my words. And I think a lot of us have slippery slopes for the mind and the mouth. And so if I've been having a couple of dreams that haven't come out yet that I keep seeing, visionary.
Yeah.
And I'm almost cautious to say them out loud because I can't say something if I'm not going to do it.
Right. I think that's actually a great point.
That's really hard to do.
Oh,
when you're like us. We're so excited.
Right.
So less words, more listening. And failure is not a word in my vocabulary.
And I think it's patience for me, and to realize, again, it's like, well, how come my book hasn't sold 10,000 or whatever? But it's like, I wrote it and it's already working.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And get over the outcome.
Yes, it's not so much patience as it is reducing you said it earlier. The outer world is not the source of your fulfillment.
Right.
Once I got that at the age of thousands of years old, I was like, the outer world is not the source of my fulfillment. I decided that I'm a really good astrologer.
Right.
I can use now it didn't come easy and it was unnatural because all the way through I was insecure. So it was a big, I'm a really good astrologer and I teach people really well. And they learn without even knowing one thing about astrology. They go through that school and by the end of 6 weeks, they're like, how does she, I had so many love letters written to me. So I realized somebody likes me.
Right.
And it's because I gave them back to themselves. I must be good at that.
And you are very good at that. And then do you find that most visionaries are insecure?
Yeah,
Right.
Because what's weird where we live, we see potential. We're ahead of the game. And there's who believed that astrology would go online and become a international.
Right.
Like that just sounds crazy.
So it's ultimately to find the peace inside and the acceptance and to love yourself, as you mentioned.
And your friends. And then who found there? I find these all over the place, by the way. You must have given them to me. I matter. I mean, it's like a joke. These are everywhere. This is another clue. Who would have said that Bob and Cheryl are going to make these chips? How many have you made of these?
Probably 10,000 or something. Yeah.
There you go. Forget the book.
And that was a vision.
Right.
Well, that's interesting. I had a guy reached out maybe 4 months ago or something, and he texted me and said, I pulled up to a stoplight and this token came rolling up. And I golfed with him once like 8 years ago. He goes, I still think about that.
This story. You never know how the magic, like right now you listening, you could have just got turned on to astrology and never thought of it.
Right. That's awesome. So the last thing, like 2 last things. One is, what's the one piece of advice or wisdom for me and the other visionaries? I mean, I think you already spoke a lot about it, but it's
slow down. I would say the best advice that I wish somebody would have said to me when I was young, because I had such passion for astrology, is you're not just what you picked up. There is going to come an era in your life when it'll be downhill. And many things are going to go so fast. You're just going to have to keep up because that's what's happened to me. And on the way up, it could take years. It could take to the end of your life before you actually peak at that pitch of, I'm feeling very confident in all this reflection. And people are responding, but that's not the point.
Right.
It's an inner job. It's easy for me to say, but it's not easy to get to the spot. It's an inside job. And as I've realized my single wisdom for myself, I learned this in Hawaii. Walk slowly, eat slowly, make love slowly, just everything slow it down.
Right.
Just slow it down.
And I find I have a hard time doing that on my own, but Cheryl and I are going through it together. And then with the Visionary Forum, it's with other visionaries because we're very similar. And so it's like, slow down. Well, here's how I've done it, or it's okay, or I'll help you to do it.
And that's what strokes, and that's what illness, and that's what hospitals, and that's what cancer, all those scary words, death, say, could you just slow down for a minute and listen? And you did.
Right. Yeah. All right. So the last thing, the name of this podcast and our rally cry for the Visionary Forum is Viva La Visionary. So what does that bring up for you?
I don't know. What does that mean?
Well, so it's basically things like structure and process have squeezed out and kind of blamed the visionary. At least a lot of us feel that way. And so I know when I'd put process in and it was, oh, Bob, stop. Oh, there goes Bob again. Oh. And so I actually shut down my visionary a lot. And so when I was leaving the implementer community of coaching EOS, which I love EOS, I just was ready to move on to something else and work with the visionary, not just the structure. Someone very high up within the community said, I'm glad you're leaving the community. I'm like, well, thanks a lot. And they said, well, someone needs to shout from the rooftop that visionaries matter and that we're not to blame. It's an and thing. It's structure and process and whatnot. And it's intuition and magic and creativity. So it's the and.
So you're a cheerleader for fire.
Right. Well, so it's long live the visionary.
That's so fire. Yeah. Oh, your question was, what does it come up? What
yeah. Well, when we say Viva La Visionary, and you're a visionary, and you didn't really fit in a lot of your life, but now you don't care.
But I really didn't fit in a lot of my life, and now I say it. You nailed that one. I would say the courage to find. This is a big one, which is why I love you. When you find those people that are like you, there's great relief. The courage to be able to say to another fire person, another visionary, like, I am so happy you're here. If you weren't as loud and enthusiastic and crazy as I am, I get to start. I used to challenge myself till I met people like us.
Right.
So there's a real value. And in astrology, like vibration, like all water signs who are quiet and gentle, they just like being alone.
Right.
Don't bug them.
Right.
And the air people who are like your wife that are reading and studying, they want to have people to talk to and books to read, and they need information. And the earth people, they got to get shit done. And they love the other person who's on time and responsible and does an excellent job. And, I got a person just like me who's got a high standard. And the fire people, we're like, oh, good. We get to laugh and be nuts and be kids, and no one's getting mad at us. This is great news.
Right. Well, our 3 uniques for the Visionary Forum is to belong, transform, and serve our purpose. So a lot of us didn't feel like we belonged. To transform and elevate for us living what we're teaching, and then to serve our purpose is to be in our great gift. So
I'm so thankful.
Well, thank you very much, Debra, for all you've done for me and for the world, and excited to keep learning with you.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love. Those buttons.
Yes.
We did so good.
There we go.
Thank you for tuning in to Viva La Visionary. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found inspiration in our guest stories. If you loved what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and share the podcast with fellow dreamers and doers. Join us next time as we continue to explore the limitless possibilities of visionary thinking. Until then, keep dreaming big and taking action. Your vision matters.